You must understand that the day that I sold this car in 2011, it was an incredibly emotional decision. It wasn't one that I wanted to make, but the situation at the time was just such that I had to. Hi, I'm Hannes Oosthuizen, Consumer Experience Manager at Cars.co.za, and I drive a 1971 Opel GT.
Cars.co.za.
Welcome to an extremely dodgy hotel in the middle of Krugersdorp. But today's going to be a good day. I'm seeing my very first classic car that I ever bought in 2007 for the first time since selling it in 2011 and buying it back in 2020. One day my wife bumped her brand new Daihatsu and I had to take her to a panel beater, and I took her to this panel beater in Woodstock, and as I walked in, I just, out of the corner of my eye, I just saw this very forlorn looking GT standing under an asbestos roof in pieces, and I immediately walked over there. And the guy came out and he wanted to talk about the Daihatsu, but I just started talking about the Opel GT and what they were going to do with it. And he said that they were going to turn it into a V8 drag racing car. And I said, no, you're not. And before we even talked about the Daihatsu, I had bought the Opel GT. And so started a 2.5-year restoration process, which was not a very good one. But eventually the car got to a point where it was quite presentable and I could take it home, and I could take my very young son at that time for drives, and he also fell in love with the car. But then, life happens, and in 2011 I had to let it go. And within a year I was in a position to buy it back again, but then I couldn't find the car. And it took me about 4 years to track down the car, but the owner didn't want to sell. So it looked like my one chance at owning a GT was gone. But then, just as COVID started, again I messaged them, and this time they were willing to talk. And so early 2020 I bought back my same Opel GT. But again, life happens, the pandemic and stuff, and I haven't seen the car since buying it in 2020, and today I will see it for the first time. But more than that, I will drive it down from Johannesburg to Cape Town. Oh my word. Yeah, it's definitely mine. You know how I know? They couldn't, this is supposed to be one piece, and they couldn't make it fit, so they cut it and then they put that joint over it. Ah, the smell. I remember it. I don't remember it being this loud. Yeah, I'm glad to see the dashboard is still not cracked. It's still got its wooden steering wheel. Yeah, it's as tight as I remember it being as well. I think maybe a little bit tighter because I've gotten wider. I want to see the outside again. Yeah, it's a pretty shape, huh? I don't think it's still processing. Yeah, big lump in the throat. Look, I could see there's some work to do, but she's still all there. One of the interesting things about this car, it looks like it's got a boot lid, but it doesn't. There's no boot. Ek sien hy het 'n bietjie van 'n bash hier gehad. Yeah, it's gonna need some work. Ready for how much? 1,600 Ks. Let's get going. The car has been standing for about 10 years, so we had to replace most of the hoses. The fuel tank was filthy, the petrol pump, all that kind of stuff. We fixed up as much as we can. This trip has come as a little bit of a rush. Yesterday it got new tyres, courtesy of Continental. And I'd just like to point out that it was actually Continental that played a big part in getting me into the Opel brand with that iconic ad filmed right here in South Africa of a cadet on that rooftop. That made me want a cadet GSI, much more than Opel's own ads back in the day. Drive is actually going very well, touch wood. It seems like the car is even more economical than what we thought. 120, no problem. Actually, I have to sort of tap off quite often because she just wants to go. No smoke as far as we can see. Impressed, even on its old shocks, riding the bumps well, not losing too much steam on the hills. Went bloom, I think way ahead of anyone's expectations. So we're going to push through to Beaufort West. I must say, on this journey, the truck drivers have been very courteous. I don't know, maybe it's the color of the car, and people really do appreciate this car. People from all walks of life, they really stop, they, you know, thumbs up, they hoot, they love the car. So maybe that has a road clearing effect, but we haven't struggled. It's been relatively easy. So the Opel GT is a very, very small two-seater sports car. The original TV commercial actually made fun of how small it is. It's powered by a 1.9 litre four-cylinder engine. Doesn't make a lot of power. I'm not even exactly sure, to be honest, how much. Rear-wheel drive and a 4-speed box. Very optimistically, the speedo is marked to 280, but you know, we sort of maxed out at half of that on this journey. The other, I guess, very iconic thing about this car is its sort of flip-over headlights. It doesn't have pop-up headlights. It sort of rolls over. And car restorers will tell you that that is one of the most complicated things to get right, to get the synchronization right, to get them to click in. And yeah, the one incident we had on this trip really was the headlight like winking. The other quite quirky thing about the Opel GT, which again resulted in quite a stereotype in Germany, is that you can recognize an Opel GT driver by the size of his right bicep compared with his left bicep, because you have this manual handle here that you have to push forward to open the headlights, and it seriously requires muscle. So in the late 60s, Opel showed a concept car called the GT at one of the European motor shows, and nobody really thought that Opel, which was seen as a very conservative German brand, would actually build it. But then they actually went ahead and they did. Interesting story is that the body of this car was actually built in France by a company called Brissenau and Lotz, and then it was put on a train and sort of married to the chassis in Germany. So it's quite a bit of a Frankensteinian car in many ways, but mechanically it's actually very simple and very similar to other Opels of that era, like the Cadet, for example. there's a leak between the engine and the gearbox, but it doesn't look too serious. I've seen cars with worse leaks in our office. The other very surprising thing on this journey, and it was always kind of a question mark, because the one gauge on the car that doesn't work is the fuel gauge. So we don't really know how much range we have on a tank, but we did find out that the tank is 55 liters, and we've up to this point used 2 tanks and running very economically and mostly at around 120, I would say. So for a 1971 1.9 liter 4-cylinder engine, I think it asks some questions of these modern small capacity turbocharged engines regarding fuel economy. But it is a very aerodynamic car, and that probably also has a positive impact on it. My son knows this car is coming back, and I know that he remembers it as this beautiful red sports car. So I'm in two minds about taking it back home, because I don't want to disappoint him, if I can put it that way. It's still a beautiful red sports car, but he's older now and he'll see all the flaws and all the mistakes. So I've got two choices. I might just leave it at work, take it straight in for restoration and make him part of that process, or I can take it home and he can see it for what it is, and then eventually one day see the end result. And I'm still weighing it up as I drive. We didn't have one major breakdown, a few little niggles, but she went better than I think anyone expected. Thrilled. I mean, for a car that stood in a museum for 10 years, it's actually a miracle, but I'm exhausted.
Thanks for watching. Now, did you know that Cars.co.za has a brilliant app? It's actually one of the most popular apps in South Africa, and that's because it's actually really bloody good to use. You can save your favorites. So while you're shopping, if you're taking a couple of weeks to shop, you just save your favorites so you don't lose them. And it's also a brilliant way of finding new car specs and pricing. It's incredibly detailed. I use it all the time. The link to the app is in the description below. You can get it on iOS and Android, and it's in the Huawei app gallery, I think it's called. Yes, that is what it's called. Cool. Alrighty. And I'm done. Good. Okay.
Cars.co.za.